well, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are here to do a Detroit Lions mock draft. What? Yes, that's what we're doing in today's video. Now, I know what you're thinking. Free agency is not over yet. Well, free agency is really never over. But, yes, free agency is still happening. You know, we could make a big signing today or tomorrow that, you know, would change this mock draft. But it is April. It is draft month officially. And I thought, why not? Today's a great day to do a mock draft for the Detroit Lions. Now, if you guys were with us last year, if you guys, you know, were around this channel last year, you know that we did some mock drafts where we basically had the first round player that we were going to pick because there was multiple options, and we would do a mock draft based on that first round player. So, for example, I think last season, you know, there were a couple of options for the Detroit Lions. Let's just throw out some names. Derek Brown, Isaiah Simmons, Jeff Okudah. 3 names, right? So we do a mock draft for Isaiah Simmons. If Simmons was drafted, here's what the rest of the mock draft would have looked like. So today we're kind of doing something similar to that. Yeah, I guess you could say the same thing. And today we're doing a mock draft for wide receiver Jamar Chase. Okay, so this one is if the Detroit Lions selected Jamar Chase with the 7th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Now, we're going to have a lot of these videos to do, and we're also going to do some that aren't like this. I'm going to do some and, you know, kind of do them live in front of you guys. But this one is a Jamar Chase mock draft. So if the Lions selected Chase at number 7, there are no trades in this draft. I wanted to see what I could do with 6 picks. I did use a simulator, so I will show up the screenshot at the end, so you guys know I'm not lying and I'm not just picking random players. Okay, look, I get it. Some people may be like, well, this player won't be available. This guy will be. I don't know. All right, we don't know. So I just used the mock draft simulator, and if they're there, they're there. I can take them, right? That's just, come on, man. It just is what it is. But I did not do trades in this draft. So this is a Jamar Chase draft. There's a lot of options for the Detroit Lions in this draft in the top rounds. I mean, this could vary between Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts. You could look at the defensive side, Micah Parsons. I mean, there's so many options for the Detroit Lions quarterback. So we could do a lot of these videos, but this one's about Jamar Chase. So I guess I already spoiled it. With the 7th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select wide receiver Jamar Chase out of LSU. Okay, so there you go. Jamar Chase is a Detroit Lion. So that is the mock draft. He's coming in at 6'1", 200 pounds. And in this scenario, I think the Lions get the best wide receiver of the draft. He's up there, but I still do like Jamar Chase the best. I really like Jamar. Unfortunately, though, we didn't get to see him last season. He opted out last year. So there are a little bit of questions of that. The Detroit Lions will have more information on him than I do. But I can tell you this. What I saw from Jamar Chase in that 2019 film is the guy is clearly just a baller. He's just a flat-out baller. He just knows how to make plays. He's got some of the best ball tracking skills when the ball's up in the air to just go make plays. He has that second gear, you know, that ability to just completely stack a cornerback, just run right by, blow by. He can be a deep threat, but he also can just really get involved everywhere on the field and just be an absolute playmaker for your team. I love me some Jamar Chase. He's just really good at everything. He can make plays once the ball's in his hands. He can be tough to bring down. Where does he lack? Well, one thing is he's not the tallest. 6 foot is relatively short, but he has really nice size at 200 pounds. Some of the other receivers are a little bit smaller, so he's more of an outside threat. Also, he played with Joe Burrow, which definitely helps a lot when you have Joe Burrow as your quarterback. And I don't think he's the shiftiest receiver when you compare him to a guy like Jalen Waddle with the ball in his hands. But I think overall, he's got really a full package here. I think Jamar Chase is just one of the most well-rounded receivers in this class. So with this mock draft, the Detroit Lions land Jamar Chase at number 7. So yeah, we got one of the best receivers. And if you look at the Lions receiver group right now, while yes, we do have a lot of receivers, we have also a lot of one-year deals. We have a lot of prove-it deals. And that, you know, we could sign guys back next season. We could go sign different free agents next season. Or we could just go draft different players. Yes, all of that is true. But I think you should at least look at drafting one receiver. And in this case, we get who I believe is the best receiver in the class, Jamar Chase. And that moves us on to the second round. So now we have the top receiver. You put him with Terrell Williams, Brashad Perriman, Khalif Raymond, who else? Damian Ratley, Quintez Cephas, Drama Ellison, see who comes out of that. But in the second round, now, here's how I really approached this draft. I approached this draft as a best available type of thing. Now, everybody has their own who's the best available. You may look at a draft board and say, this is the best available. I may look at it and say something different. But I really try to take who I felt was the best available and not necessarily chase needs as much. But I did try to fill out needs at the same time. So it's kind of weird. Either way, in the second round, I took a player that really never falls to me. But again, I just went with what the draft simulator said. So if he was there, I'm taking him because we don't know how the draft is going to go. So at pick number 41, the Detroit Lions second round pick, the Detroit Lions select offensive tackle Samuel Cosmi. Now, this one is weird. This one is strange because usually if I don't take a tackle, whether that's Penny Sewell or Rashawn Slater in the first round, I usually wait on tackle until about the third round or later, okay? I usually don't jump super early because there are some mid to late round guys that I like. However, the fact that Samuel Cosmi fell to me, it was kind of like one of those situations where I was saying, I just feel like this is best available. I have a feeling this is best available. I could take cornerback here. I could go linebacker here. I could go, safety maybe. But I just feel like Samuel Cosmi is the best. And Samuel Cosmi, when I watch him, I know, recently he's got some slack. Some people are very high on him. Some people are very low on him. Some people say that he's a hit and miss prospect. Here's how I view Samuel Cosmi personally. First off, he's a finisher. All right. If you watch this guy run block, he is a finisher. He has that mentality to finish off the play. And it didn't take very many snaps for me to see that in his film. I was like, okay, I'm sold. I love that part of his game. I want guys that finish. I don't want offensive linemen that patty cake and then they stand there and then the guy slips off and makes play. I want you to finish that play. At least give me the effort to try to finish. And Cosmi will bring that. It's 6'6", 314 pounds. Now, he also played the right tackle position in 2018. So he has experience playing that position. He played relatively well in that season for Texas. He also has played in a very heavy pass offense with Sam Ehlinger at quarterback. Does have a pretty good amount of experience there. But where I think he fits the Detroit Lions, number one, because he's a finisher. Obviously, that'll help as a run blocker. Number two, I think he can play the right tackle position. But number three, he's extremely athletic. One of the most athletic offensive linemen in this draft, especially for his size. I think in an offense that's going to see a lot of play action, a lot of Jared Goff getting outside the pocket, play action boots, things like that. It's nice to have an athletic offensive lineman, especially if that's who you're behind as a quarterback. So I think for the Lions here, Samuel Cosmi is a nice pick. Now, what does concern me? Technically, he needs a lot of work. Not technically, but technically. First off, his hands. I feel like his hands get in the wrong place a lot of times. He's not consistent with his first punches, and that can really open the door for pass rushers. Sometimes it opens the door up into the inside. Athletically, he's really nice. He's got a great bend. He can push guys out of play. He can really recover because of his athleticism, but technically he needs work. He can be laid off the snap, which I think is just something that you need to discipline in your head. Hey, get off the snap, get off the snap. You got to just be very aware of what's going on to consistently be good off the snap. But I see Taylor Decker do it. Maybe he could help him out a little bit there. Also think that he does open the window inside way too often, for pass rushers, opening the door, allowing them to attack him from the inside. But I think overall, Cosmi brings a lot to the game, but it's not completely polished yet. Now, do I believe that he could be a starter year one? 100%. I think if the team needs a tackle, they could draft him and he could start year one. Is there going to be hiccups? There's no question about it. There is no question he's going to have hiccups, and he's not the most polished offensive lineman, but his upside is ridiculously good. And why I think this works for Lions is because I don't think we necessarily need to replace Terrell Crosby this year, but if you had the opportunity, you could. If Sewell was there or Slater was there, then yes, you could go do it. But in this mock draft, we had Jamar Chase at 7. So I didn't get one of those guys. For me personally, outside of those guys, Jalen Mayfield, maybe Darius, but I don't love Darius because I don't think he's much of a finisher. Maybe outside of those guys, I don't know how many truly surefire starter tackles you're going to get in this draft anyway. So for me, I felt like Cosmi had some of the highest upside, but he also could start if you need him to. You could trust him to start. And I think he has position versatility there, but his upside is awesome. I love his mentality, and I also think he's very athletic. So for the Lions, it's a situation where, okay, look, if he blows you away, if he earns that starting right tackle role, boom, give it to him. He can start awesome. If he doesn't, though, kind of like we talked about with Dylan Radins, you don't have to give him the keys to start at right tackle yet. You don't have to do it. Maybe move him to left tackle if Decker moves. I'm assuming Decker's not going to move. But you don't have to give him those keys yet. Terrell Crosby, you could start at right tackle. And you could be the backup to Terrell Crosby. And in that situation, he's not thrown into the fire. It gives him a year to really perfect this craft in practice, get with an offensive line coach, Rutt back and Hank Fraley, and just work with those guys. Work and learn from Taylor Decker, Terrell Crosby, Big V, whoever it may be. Just learn from those guys in practice. And that way in 2022, which we've talked about, when Terrell Crosby's contract is up, when Big V has a potential out, and you're saying, okay, what are we doing for the future? You could have your option and you could have your answer right there at right tackle. And it really gives you a lot of options. Like I said, most times I wouldn't do this. If Cosmi wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have went tackle this high. But the fact that he fell, I was just like, well, I got to do it. So I went Samuel Cosmi and filled out potentially the right tackle position for this year. But if not, definitely I think he could be for the future. I think the upside is just too high here to pass. And that moves us on to the third round. And with our third round pick at pick number 72, the Detroit Lions select linebacker Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis is someone I've been very high on for months. Back when I was actually working on my website, which I got to figure out how to get that back because it's acting goofy. Jamin Davis is someone that I really liked out of Kentucky. Standing at 6'4", 232 pounds. And this was another one of those players that just didn't take me long to say, Why are not more people talking about this guy? Because for some reason, back when I was watching him, I just didn't hear a lot of talk about Jamin Davis. I think he was projected to go very late in the draft, and I was like, I didn't really know who he was, but I was just watching everybody at that time. And at that time, it was before we signed Anzalonis, before we brought back Jalen Maben, and I was still trying to figure out what our defense is going to look like. I just knew the Lions needed new linebackers. So I was looking at linebackers, and Jamin Davis was one of those players I was like, man, I really like this guy. He flies around the field, he's very bursty, and he's an excellent run defender. And I see very high athleticism here. So I'm thinking, okay, this is a solid pick. But now all of a sudden his stock is rising. And again, he fell to 72. That may not be the case. But that's just what the simulator allowed to happen. I didn't break anything. I just went with the simulator allowed. And since he was there, how can I pass up? I'd be a fool to pass up, in my opinion. Jamin Davis as the linebacker. Now, I think he needs improvements. He's a third-round pick. Of course, there's going to be things that you have to work on within his game. A lot of it, to me, comes in coverage. But he has the athletic ability to cover. I'm not a huge measurable guy, like where I get too focused on, the 40 time, things like that. But I love this film, right? But then you talk about the measurables. The guy had a 42-inch vertical, 6'3.5", 234 pounds, 4'4", 140, 11-foot broad jump. I like it. First off, he's a phenomenal tackler. He doesn't miss tackles. He's very quick. He's got a really nice size for what you see with Jalen Maben and Alex Anzalone. He's got a very similar size. Also, I love his height. I love the height. Alex Anzalone's 6'3", I love it. He's 6'4". I love that height. And it gives him some scheme versatility. Some people say 3-4, some people say 4-3, some people say outside, some people say inside. I think he could play a lot of different spots. If the Lions show a 3-4 again, I think he could play it. He may be slightly undersized, but I think he could play it, especially if it's one gap. I think when you look at the linebackers that we brought in with Maben and Anzalone, I think this is a very similar build, but also he gives you a nice skill set of a tackler.
Mike, Will, outside backer, anything. Like I said, I'll play center if you wanted me to. So that's not really anything that I'll just put any type of main focus on. I'll just step in and play.
He could be more of an early down player early in his career, potentially for the Detroit Lions. But where does he need work? I think in coverage, he's still not completely polished. He needs a lot of work there to me, but he has the athleticism to do it. This guy lined up at slot over 100 snaps in last season. Lined up at slot a ton for Kentucky. So clearly the ability is there. You could see the speed is there. You could see the quickness, the burst, the willingness to cover. But he does get lost, especially in zone coverage. He does seem to be lost from time to time. He hasn't been much of a playmaker in coverage either. Very disciplined run defender, as in terms of he can set the edge, do things like that, and that also helps him be scheme versatile. Plus, he can drop deep into zone coverage. He still needs to improve as a playmaker there, but he can drop into zone coverage. He was slightly rotational for Kentucky, and that's probably what it'll be for the Detroit Lions anyway. He didn't play a ton in man-to-man coverage, not tasked with that, but the athleticism and the size is there, so I think it could be more of a factor. The pass rusher, I think the speed's there, the quickness is there, the shooting, the gaps there, making plays in backfield, but doesn't really have any pass rush moves in his arsenal. So I do think there is work that needs to be added there. Also, picking up blockers maybe not be the best thing, but at the same time, I think what their defense could look like, I don't think that's going to be his responsibility. It's about short area quickness, closing gap, shooting down, being able to make plays in the backfield, but also flying around and being a great tackler, which is something that the Lions kind of lack with Anzalone a little bit there. Just want to stop in real quick to let you guys know that if you guys were ever interested in investing in your favorite sports teams like us as Detroit Lions fans, you guys should check out www.symbol.app. It's a way to basically invest in your favorite sports team and earn a payout when your team wins. So for us as Detroit Lions fans, now we can finally invest in something that we actually know. And with the draft coming up very soon, this is your opportunity to get involved. You guys can use promo code DOD for a $10 bonus deposit. Check it out. Pick number 101. The Detroit Lions select, again, another guy that I was like, how did this dude fall? I just got to do what the simulator says. And at 101, the Detroit Lions select safety, Cisco. There was another safety available at 101, a Darius Washington. And I really struggled not to take a Darius Washington. I sat there and I said, man, I like a lot of his game. There's so many things I like. I love his discipline. He flies down. He's a very aggressive player. He fits really well in a split safety look, but he may be somewhat limited that, but he's super undersized, 5'8". I'm like, I love it, but then I don't love it all. And then I see Cisco, a guy that tore his ACL in 2020, a guy that's gotten beat many times. And I'm thinking, okay, do I go with who I think is more complete now, but doesn't have the same upside? Or do I go with the guy that has great size in Cisco, who's 6 foot tall, a guy that I think has blazing speed as a safety, one of the best potential free safeties in this draft class, an absolute ball hawking playmaker with Syracuse? Do I take that guy? and I ultimately decided I'm going to go with Andre Cisco. See, I think Cisco can play in the box. We've seen him using there a lot at Syracuse. He can play in a split safety look, but he also has the ability to drop deep safety. And at deep safety, he may be one of the better deep safety guys because of his upside. He makes a lot of plays as a deep safety. Like I said, his ball hawking numbers are just off the charts. Great job at tracking the ball midair, and he's very unhesitant to go down and make a play. Sometimes, though, that does work against him, and he does have the tendency to give us some big plays. While he had 5 interceptions last season, he also had 6 touchdowns allowed. Not a very hesitant player. He's very attacking. He'll come down, try to make a play, but he does take really bad angles as a tackler. He's not an awful tackler, but he does take bad angles as a tackler. He is a willing hitter. The speed and quickness is there. There was rumor he ran like a 4.33 at one point, but the speed and quickness is definitely there. The size is there. He can occasionally lay the boom, which is cool. You love to see that from your safeties. He can come play in the box, but he's not consistent as a defender. Some of his weakness, though, I do want to point out here, like I said, bad angles, filling holes. I think that needs to improve as a run defender. He does get sold on fakes. He can get out of position. He can get beat as a single high deep safety. He tackles too low too often, in my opinion. He's too often diving and not consistently like putting his helmet in their chest and just running through them. And as a man coverage guy, he's not the best. He's not awful at it, but he's not that good at it right now. I don't think he's all the way there yet. I think there's things that need work. Some of that, though, is that they got him in really bad positions defensively. He's a playmaker. He's got a lot of speed. I think he's got a potential to play that deep safety position. And I think the Lions are relatively somewhat deep at safety, but they don't have a lot of playmakers in the back end yet. Not a lot of playmakers. In terms of Tracy Walker, Will Harris, Jordan Elliott, Bobby Price, they have some depth here, but they don't have playmakers. Even coming out of college, these guys weren't huge, turnover machines. I think he might be that guy that's a turnover machine. And potentially, again, going off of upside here, because where are we in 2022? I'm not as worried about this year and getting a guy that's completely ready to go as much as I want a guy that has ridiculous upside. And I think he gives me more upside than a Darius Washington does. Plus, he has really nice size. He can play in the box really well as well. He's got some similar size, I guess I would say, to a guy like Tracy Walker, but he's a ball hawk with incredible speed that really, if you're worried about speed in the back end, you have him back there and you could trust it. He could play that single high deep safety position, and really the only guy I can really trust there consistently as, being a playmaker is Tracy Walker, and I don't think he's the best at it. Will Harris gets lost too often. Jordan Elliott played free safety at Notre Dame. But, I don't know. So I went with Andre Cisco. For all those people out there that really want Malik Hooker, aside from the torn ACL, take a look at Andre Cisco, because I think he brings a lot to the table as maybe being a rotational deep safety right now, but, potentially to build on that and become a bigger role for the Detroit Lions down the road. I expect him probably to be a higher pick than this, but again, he was available. So, what do I just not take it? And that moves us on to pick number 112. And there's one positional group that I think the Lions have a huge need, yet they helped it a little bit recently with the signing of Corn Elder, but I still think they need work, and that is cornerback. And at pick number 112, that's where I finally get some help. With the 112th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select cornerback Rodarius Williams. I wanted to go with a different name. I've watched a lot of cornerbacks recently, so I was very tempted to go elsewhere. But I honestly talked myself into this one. I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. And I was looking at the cornerback group there, and I was like, let's just take Rodarius Williams. If you don't know who this is, we've talked about him many times, so that's probably why he's a familiar name to you. But he is the brother of Greedy Williams. He's a very man-heavy type of cornerback that last season really improved as a run tackler. He actually missed 0 tackles last season, which was very beneficial to me. He is 25 years old, so he's not super young as a rookie. He's actually the older brother of Greedy Williams, as weird as that may sound. But he plays in a very heavy man scheme. He can press. He's got tremendous speed. He plays mainly the outside cornerback position. He really improved upon his tackling last season, which I really do like. I don't see him as a slot cornerback at the next level. Maybe he gets there, but I think physically, maybe a tad undersized, but not really. I think he's similar to Lattimore in terms of size, just a little bit smaller. But I don't see him as a slot corner. I think some of his biggest weaknesses are really making plays on underneath short routes, because he doesn't always trust himself on double moves. Instead of, risking it for the biscuit, I guess people say, and jumping down trying to make a play and being worried about giving up a double move, he just won't always jump down. He's a little slow to make that play, so that's why you don't see a lot of turnovers. He does have some nice pass breakups. He's got really good footwork. He is a nice press corner. He's got great length, but I think the Lions did lack signing Corn Elder. Great length. They get another outside cornerback. Great in red zone situations. He's got the closing speed. You can watch him on crossing routes to just shut those things down. If he gets a second with good linebacker help over the middle, he's going to close on that very, very quickly. And like I said, he improved so much as a run tackler last season. He needs to show more confidence in his coverage ability and maybe take some risk, but maybe that's something that you can bring out of him at the next level potentially. A patient player that really thrives in a press man scheme that played up tempo. So remember last year when Okuda got tired and he had to come off? This shouldn't be the problem problem with him. He should be willing to being able to go against different types of paces offensively, but I also think he can play the cover 3 if you need him in that kind of zone where you press bail, right? You show up like you're pressing in man coverage and then you bail out like a cover 3. So he has ever still to do that. I think we brought in a lot of guys that have been able to play cover 3 defense, so it wouldn't shock me if the Lions went after another prospect with that similar skill set. I teeter-tottered with this pick longer than any other pick that I made, because the thing was with Rodarius Williams is that I think he's a great scheme fit. The thing that he does lack to me is the block shedding out in the open space and being a physical defender against the run. Yes, I want my cornerbacks to be able to tackle. He checks one of those boxes because up until last season, the guy was not very much of a physical presence out in the cornerback position, and I probably would not have drafted him just because of that reason. Because the guy missed tackles, he wasn't a playmaker as a tackler, and I was like, you know what? We can't really have that on the boundary. However, things have changed a little bit. 0 missed tackles last season. He looked more involved, more engaged as a tackler, and I loved that, but he needs to continue to add on that. He needs to get that mindset and bite some kneecaps, and hopefully he could get that from the Detroit Lions. Still don't love him as a block shedder, but I'm just saying, if he wants to get playing time, if the Lions draft him, he's got to be more dominant as a run defender. You got speed at cornerback here, and this is a guy that can plug in and help you year one. While I think there is upside with him being a 4-year player, I think this is more of a plug in and play type of pick, maybe not as much flying off the upside here. And I think when you look at corner, while yes, we did have help with Corn Elder, we could use a guy that could adapt a lot quicker, and I went with Rodarius Williams. But that didn't stop me with my final pick in the draft at 153 to say, hey, let me add some more help at this position. Yes, with pick number 153, I went with another cornerback, and the Detroit Lions select Shakur Brown, cornerback, Michigan State. Okay, yes, I'm not the biggest MSU fan, but when it comes to the Lions, I don't care where he's from as long as he can ball. And to me, Shakur Brown proved in only 12 starts that he could ball. Again, this could be more of an upside pick because he only has 12 starts, and in those 12 starts, on 79 targets, he has 7 interceptions. Another ball-hawking cornerback. But what I like about Shakur Brown is, first off, very competitive player. You can see it in his eyes. The guy wants to get after it. He wants to play. He's winning against some really nice competition. But I think what I really like about Shakur Brown is that he can play outside corner and slot corner. Slightly undersized, 5'10", 185 pounds, which could potentially limit him to be more of a slot role, but I don't think it does because of his play style and his ability on the outside and on the boundary to make plays. So I think for him, okay, yes, he can play slot, he can play on the outside depending on what the Lions need. One proven slot right now with Corn Elder, who they just signed. We don't have the best safeties, I don't think, that do the best in coverage right now. Williams, to me, is way better on the outside, and that's mainly where we see him play. But since Brown has done a little bit of both, I say, okay, I see the versatility here, but his zone awareness needs a lot of work. He gets lost in zones. I think zone coverage is something he's going to improve upon, but Michigan State doesn't play a lot of zone, so that's kind of expected. And again, I expect us to play a lot of man, so I was looking for a man corner. Only 12 starts, and he can get kind of grabby, can get a little bit too competitive, too aggressive as a corner, and you got to watch that. You don't want to get called for flags. So a guy that I felt like was a really nice scheme fit, and just someone I want to go to battle with. And I'd want to go to battle with Shakur Brown. And ultimately, I wanted to get some cornerback help. Yes, you are taking a risk with a very small sample size. He had an injury in 2019. Of course, 2020 was short because of COVID. But I think, the upside's there, and he's a playmaker. He's also important about this pick is you may be thinking, well, we have Corn Elder. Why would you go with a guy that can play slot? The reason I did that is because Corn Elder is also on a 1-year deal. He'll be a death player right now, but then next season, you could be looking at that slot position, and Shakur Brown could be your next slot cornerback. On 1-year deals, you also have to look at this season, but you also have to look ahead and just see what their potential role could be. And with a lot of picks, that's what I did. I am all in for going second-round corner, top or higher corner. But with 6 draft picks, I felt good with who was there with Rodarius Williams and Shakur Brown. I felt really good about those picks. I didn't feel like I just picked up random corners. I felt like I picked up strong corners. And we've talked about these guys a few times, so you know that I definitely like these corners, and I feel like there's some legitimacy with these guys. These aren't just fill-ins. I mean, this isn't that late in the draft. 153 is not that late. It's just when our last pick comes because we don't have a 6th or 7th round pick. Secondary coach is DC, and a new secondary coach. What I've seen them do in terms of developing safeties, when I see the upside of Andre Cisco, I think, jackpot. I mean, this guy, if you can develop him and make him more consistent as a player, you literally just hit a jackpot here with Andre Cisco. With cornerback, they're going to need some work and need some improvement, but I can trust these guys too. I think they can do it. I think they're both scheme fits for the Detroit Lions in a nice way. I could have went other ways here with cornerback, but I did want to land 2 of them. Jamar Chase, he's just a beast. Nothing need to be said there. Jamin Davis, I think, is a great fit at linebacker. Could help us year one. I wanted to at least get 1 linebacker. Would have been nice to have 2, and that's why I think trading back, yes, would be a very nice thing to do. But with only 6 picks, there's only so much you can do. And I did value secondary a little bit more. I made 3 picks for the secondary because we're light there. we're unproven there a little bit. You know, we haven't had the best success, but also because we have secondary coach as our DC, I kind of favored that a little bit. I think defensive line is strong for us right now, so I didn't go with the draft pick in that spot. Again, there's only so many picks. I only went 2 offensive picks. I got a top receiver, and we got the great tackle. So that's our draft. Only 6 picks. It was tough, but we'll have more of these for sure. So Jamar Chase draft, our first mock draft, goes like this. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.